Hey YouTube, Twig here, bringing you all my Lady of Lament Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile for post Power of the Elements. We did actually get some new cards in the latest Power of the Elements set, and when I say cards, I mean one new Lady of Lament monster, but we also got some reprints in the latest Tactical Master booster set, making this deck more readily available to build with reprints like Lilith, Lady of Lament, which was definitely a pretty pricey main deck monster from the Lair of Darkness structure deck. So with the new reprinted support and the newest card from the Power of the Elements set, I felt like doing a deck profile for this that focuses on using normal traps just for a pretty good back row setup against your opponent, and then using dark monsters along with Lair of Darkness to tribute out for some of your bigger boss monsters. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So for the Lady of Lament monsters, I am running 3 Lilith Lady of Lament. I would definitely say Lilith is the best of all the Lady of Lament. She was also one of the first ones we got. If this card is normal summon, its original attack becomes 1000. And also, quick effect, you contribute 1 dark monster, reveal 3 normal traps from your deck. Your opponent randomly chooses 1 for you to set on the field, and then shuffle the rest back into your deck. You can only use each effect of Lilith Lady of Lament once per turn. The tribute helps for getting out some of our bigger boss monsters in the deck as well, including the Darkest Diabolos, Lord of the Lair, onto the field to use. But also this trap setup just works very, very well with many of the other Lady of Lament monsters that we run in the deck, with Lilith being the biggest one we use number-wise. The other ones we're just running 2 of and 1 of counts, so I'm running 2 copies of Malice, Lady of Lament. Quick effect, you contribute 2 monsters, then target 1 of your normal traps that is banished or in your graveyard. Set that target, but place it at the bottom of the deck when it leaves the field. You can only use this effect of Malice once per turn, so only 2 copies of this because this is more of the recycle card, being able to help because you do banish some cards with Trap Trick, so if you can just reset those cards up on the field to reuse with Malice, it is definitely useful to keep many of the 2-of cards that we run and would either banish 1 copy, set the other with Trap Trick, to then reuse back on the field again. The newest card from Power of the Elements is Loris, Lady of Lament. You can target 3 or 6 of your normal traps that are banished and or in your graveyard, place them on the bottom of the deck in any order, then draw 1 card for every 3 placed. If another monster is tributed or if a normal trap is sent to your graveyard by an opponent's card effect, except during the damage step, you can target 1 normal trap in your graveyard, set it, and you can use each effect of Loris, Lady of Lament once per turn. This is another setup and recycle card. Just being able to get a draw 2 and prevent yourself from decking out is why I really do like this new addition to the deck. I feel you only need 2 though. Once again, it's more of a late game card, so if you get this card early on, you won't really be able to do much with it, with the last of the Lady of Lament cards being 1 Alice, Lady of Lament. When this card is normal summon, you can target 1 Lady of Lament monster in your graveyard, special summon it. You can only use each effect of the following of Alice, Lady of Lament once per turn. You can banish traps from your hand or graveyard to special summon this card from your hand, and if this card is tributed or if this card in its owner's possession is destroyed by an opponent's card, you can add 1 Fiend monster whose combined attack or defense equals 2000 from your deck to your hand, except for Alice, Lady of Lament. So this being a 2000 attack point monster also will pop up for some of the other traps we run in the deck. But once again, it helps for the special summon play because then it also gives you access to some extra deck monsters to go into. If you wanted to increase the number of Alice in the deck, you could take out some of the trap lineup that I run for additional copies to have this. But once again, you do have to have the other Lady of Lament monsters set up in the graveyard all ready to use with Alice. I also run 3 Irma the Wicked Warden for search power for the Lair of Darkness field spell. You can discard this card to add 1 Lair of Darkness from your deck to your hand, and you can tribute 1 dark monster to draw 1 card, or if this card you tributed this monster or another effect to activate this effect, you can add 1 dark monster with 2000 or more defense from your deck to your hand instead. You can only use this effect of Irma the Wicked Warden once per turn. So you have search 4 cards like Alice to your hand, but also for our next boss monster. Most of the time with Irma, you're going to use it for the Lair of Darkness, but we can also get out our bigger boss monster, which is Darkest Diabolos, Lord of the Lair. Your opponent cannot tribute this face-up card on the field, and it cannot target it with card effects. You can only use each effect of Darkest Diabolos, Lord of the Lair, once per turn. If a dark monster you control is tributed, except during the damage step, you can special summon this card from your graveyard, or if it was there, from the hand, even if it's not. And also, you can tribute 1 dark monster. Your opponent places 1 card from their hand on either the top or bottom of the deck. Getting rid of resources from your opponent's hand using this 3000 attack, 2000 defense monster, but also being able to make use of the many different tributes when your Lair of Darkness is also set up on the field. For the last of the main deck effect monsters, I also run 3 Tour Guide from the Underworld for more of a special summon option. Using this card, just very, very useful to use this to set up the many other Fiend monsters on the field and then just go for an extra deck play. And that is it for the monsters. For the spells, I am running 3 Lair of Darkness. All face-up monsters on the field become dark. Once per turn, if you attribute a monster you control to activate a card effect, you contribute 1 dark monster your opponent controls, even though you do not control it. And once per turn during the end phase, special summon as many Torment tokens onto the field as possible. The turn's player in field in defense position up to the number of monsters tributed this turn while this card was face-up, giving you more resources to tribute, but also just being able to use your opponent's resources for the many different tributes you use for the Lady of Lament monsters, or even your Darkest Diabolos or Arima while this card's on the field. It's searchable by Arima, that's why we're also running 3 of this card to get it more readily available to use in your hand as well. And it's just a great setup because it can disrupt a lot of your opponent's plays, making them Dark Attribute monsters also. With the other spell just being 3 Ties of the Brethren to special summon out the many different Lady of Lament monsters. If you can just get 3 of them on the field, even if you're locked into other special summons, this setup alone with your back row traps can be enough to really either mess with your opponent with that back row protection or just have more setup to use later on. That is it for the spells. The big part of the deck comes down to the trap lineup, which, like I said, is a very important part of it. For the traps, I'm running 3 Trap Trick. You banish 1 normal trap from your deck, except for Trap Trick. And if you do set 1 card with the same name directly from your deck, it can be activated this turn. You can only activate 1 trap card for the rest of this turn after this card resolves. But the banish off of this card is what also comes up a lot with cards like Malice, Lady of Lament, being able to then recycle those banished cards that we banished off of Trap Trick, while still setting the other inherent one on the field. I also run 3 Infinite Impermanence, probably one of the best ones to at least reveal off of Lilith, Lady of Lament, because it sets up a monster effect negation on the field for you to use against your opponent. While also being set up on the field, it can also take out that column that your opponent will want to avoid working around. I also run 3 Compulsory Evacuation Device, a good way to get rid of pesky traps that are on the field. For those monsters, when I said traps, obviously monsters to bounce back on the field. This card cannot bounce trap cards. And I also run for the last of the 3 ofs, 3 Dogmatica Punishment, just for the destruction of a card your monster your opponent controls, and send 1 monster with equal or higher attack from your extra deck to the graveyard. Plenty of options with the extra deck to send, but being able to send cards like our Elder Entity to the graveyard just gives us more of a destruction play off of that as well. For some of the lower numbers for the traps, I also run 2 Full Force Virus. You tribute 1 dark monster with 2,000 or more defense. Look at your opponent's hand and all monsters they control, and all cards they draw until the end of this turn. So with this card for the tribute play, you can use a good number of cards, even just for the tribute of Lair of Darkness, being able to use an opponent's monster as that resource. But you also have your Darkest Diabolos, Lord of the Lair, to tribute, and also your Alice, if need be, for this card's full requirements, and shutting down a good number of cards your opponent may draw into, or what they already have in the hand because of it. I only run 2 though. You can set it up with Trap Trick much more quickly, and then just recycle it back if you have to use it again with cards like Malice. I'm also running 2 of the new Fair Welcome Labyrinth in the deck. When a monster declares an attack while you control a fiend monster, target 1 card on the field, negate the attack, and if you destroy that targeted card, then you can set 1 non-Labyrinth normal trap from your hand or deck. So the non-Labyrinth normal trap comes up for the good majority of the other setup. It's why I like running this new trap in this deck, just for additional setup, stopping an opponent's attack against your weaker Lady of Lament monsters, while still being able to keep other plays going depending on the non-Labyrinth normal trap that you set on the field as well. I also run 2 Fiend Griefing to finish off the main deck. You target 1 monster in your opponent's graveyard, shuffle it into the deck, then you can send 1 Fiend monster from your deck to the graveyard. More for the graveyard setup with plenty of our Fiends, especially if you were to special summon it off of Alice back onto the field, and also just being able to get rid of a resource in your opponent's graveyard, having this card be a trap, you can activate it right when they try to do that monster effect. And that's it for the main deck. Moving on now to the extra deck. I run 1 Master King Archfiend for the Fiend Link 2 plays, 1 Barricade Board Blocker for the Field Spell Reset, 1 Wee Witch's Apprentice for the Dark Attribute Boost, and Dark the Dark Charmer to take our opponent's dark monsters to use for ourselves, along with 1 Nightmare Cerberus and 1 Nightmare Phoenix and 1 IP Masquerena for the Link 2 monsters. For the bigger links, I run 1 Nightmare Unicorn and 1 Access Code Talker for a bigger boss monster to use with our other Link monsters to destroy our opponent's cards. And for the Xyz monsters, I run 1 Dante Traveler of the Burning Abyss, 1 Leviair the Sea Dragon, along with 1 Downward Magician and 1 Zeus for when I do attack with my other monsters to then overlay into it. And then also for the fusion monsters, just the 2 Elder Entity. For the 3rd copy of this card, since we are running 3 Dogmatica Punishment, most of the time with Punishment I do set up a Banish with our Trap Trick, so I only ever use 2 copies at most. That's why I'm running 2 of the Elder Entity. But if you wanted to take one out, you could always remove a Dark the Dark Charmer or Wee Witch's Apprentice for a 3rd copy of this card. As for the go-to plays and setup in the deck, it all comes down to what you open up. If you open up Ties of the Brethren, and then just being able to target one of the other ones you set up on the field, like Lilith, being able to then just special summon 2 additional Lady of Lament monsters can give you the recycle power for both of these cards. So I would say this is one scenario where opening up Ties of the Brethren late game definitely comes in a lot more handy if you haven't opened up any other monsters, because with this deck you do have a heavy trap setup. But being able to recycle cards back is where Loris comes in handy. She is our main go-to draw power in the deck, to then recycle all the other traps we've already used back in the deck again to reuse. Being able to use Infinite Impermanence more than 3 times in a game if need be, or even for the Banish of the Trap Trick setup, and then shuffle the other 2 we've already used back in the deck, definitely will pop up a lot more than you realize with this deck. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Like I said, with the new support we got from Power of the Elements and the added reprinted support from the Tactical Master set, it definitely made this deck more readily available to build. There are some other alternatives you can use to take out Diabolos using some of the newer cards we got from the Burst of Destiny set, which will hopefully be available in the Megaton as well, to look forward to building in this deck. But as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Twig out.